Hello, and how are you all today? All two of you who have broken cover, namely Heather C. Butterfly Sage and the lovelies at River Little, or what's your real name? Peggy? Have you checked out Peggy? Peggy's a bit of a nature girl up in Montana. She loves her rivers and lakes and eagles and all that good stuff, as I do myself. Thanks very much for saying hello, by the way. Really appreciate it. And you as well, Heather. That name, now you call yourself Doodle Dog as well, so I'm not sure where you're at, but the name Sage, by the way, which is in your Heather Butterfly Sage. Sage features in my family tree, going, maybe 150 years ago, something like that. And it was a lady called Sage, might have been her second name, Sage, but I don't want to take anyone's reputation, but she was a bit of a bohemian girl. That's what I remember the researcher in the family telling me. She was a bit of a girlo, she was. Maybe it's in my blood. Anyway, hello to you all. And Peggy, I know you're stretch of the woods, kind of, so to speak. So Montana down below at Wyoming, then Idaho, and then Utah, which I've traveled in extensively in my time, and California. I used to ski across from, was it Heavenly, place like that? I used to ski from California into Nevada, have my lunch and ski back again. That's when I was young and virile. And of course, I've travelled more recently in Seattle and down to New York. And indeed, my eldest girl, she's just back from 3 months of having a ball in New York. She went and she worked over there. So hello, and thank you very much. Okay, look, because it's Friday and you've broken cover, and if anybody else is out there who's following this, please say hello. You know, like and subscribe and all that stuff the kids say. But you know what, girls? I was reserving this for someone who'd buy me coffee on my PayPal below, but I'm not really that desperate. It just, I thought, recompense of some kind. And no, you're getting honorary dinglings today. So are you ready? Are you ready? Heather and Peggy, here you go. Happy Friday! Don't tell your husbands or partners about my dingling, or I might find it in a certain orifice of my body, which I do not want, really. My beloved wife's away again. Oh, she's a girl. She's away with her friends. And then she was away on business, and she's got a great life. I'm stuck in here. What happened to the life I used to have? We're on to chapter 9. I want to, if you hang on to the end of this chapter, and it's not a particularly long one, we'll have a little chat about the family here. Okay? The Howards. Because I've been doing a little bit of research, boys and girls. Chapter 9. Something hit me. Churchill's best friend. Sorry, I need to check something here. Yeah. Churchill's best friend was the first and late Lord Birkenhead. When I was at Oxford, Birkenhead showed interest in me because I was both a footballer and a member of his old college, Wadham. He gave me some advice. I took it and have regretted it ever since, but that is another story. Birkenhead was a buccaneer, a gay adventurer. I heard plenty about him from my Oxford scout, or servant, who had looked after him when he was an undergraduate. The scout's name was Smith. That was Birkenhead's name also before he was ennobled. The scout used to take work as temporary butler during the vacations. Once a telegram arrived for Smith, Wadham College, offering him a 2-month job as a footman in Scotland. This telegram was opened by the undergraduate, not the scout. Birkenhead-to-be was short of cash at the time, so he went to Scotland and did the job which had been intended for his servant. You see, that's how royalty works. It's all like sneaky stuff. Royalty. I'm Irish. We don't like royalty. Birkenhead-to-be was short of cash at the time, so he went to Scotland and, yeah, we've done that. Birkenhead said that life still offered golden, glittering prizes to those with sharp swords. Also of his political opponents, that he had beaten them with brains, and that if they chose to put up the barricades, he would slit their soft, white throats for them. This spirit describes my own in those interwar years, except that I should probably have been on the opposite side of the barricades to that of Lord Birkenhead. My sword was sharp. I fought for the gold and the glitter of wealth, power and reputation. I slit the soft white throats of those who stood in my pathway as frequently and effectively with my pen as I was able. I was always searching for something. Call it what you will, it is hard to put a name to it. I named it happiness. Looking back, I believe I was in search of some master passion, some great ideal to which I could wholly give myself, which would provide a motive and force for my living, and by which the world could be remade. I sought it in my work, my home, my ambitions, and though I received much from all these things, and gave much to them also, yet the fullness of my heart's desire remained unsatisfied. All the time Lenin was bidding for me and millions with his big idea of superclass. Hitler was bidding for me and millions with his big idea of super race. So were the politicians, planners and pundits of Westminster who paraded their panaceas between the wars. But somehow, though I liked some of these ideas better than others, I remained heart whole. Lubrication. That sounded very dodgy. Sorry about that. So were the politicians. Yeah, we've done that. What were my deepest convictions? They say that an Englishman is no more ready than a burglar to discuss his convictions. At any rate, my convictions in those interwar years were not such as would make my friends uncomfortable. Certainly they were not such as would make me uncomfortable either. The great General Booth, after talking with Churchill and studying him closely in his younger day, remarked that he was badly in need of what old-fashioned people described as conversion. Probably Booth would have said the same of me, and I should have been as irritated and disdainful of his observation as I suspect Churchill may have been. Anyway, it was in this spirit and from such a background that I strode out to meet the adventure of my life. In half an hour I found the secret which for years had eluded me and millions like me. I was on the lookout for news, as every good journalist must be even. I was fresh from a meeting with some of the leading statesmen of Britain, at which many of the things said had incensed me by their complacency. At luncheon I launched into a criticism of these statesmen. The man sitting next to me said, "You know, criticism is not much good by itself. Any fool can do it, and most fools do it." Then he went on, "I believe the men of the future are those who match their criticism with cure." I looked at this fellow with asperity. I was not accustomed to be spoken to in such a manner by people unknown to myself, and therefore of small importance to me. I said sharply, "Death is the only permanent cure for some of our politicians." He replied, "That is the mistake so many people like you make. If I may say so, everybody says the world ought to be different, but only a few people know how it can happen." I laughed with scorn and said, very British, "You're not suggesting you have got some secret that will change the world, are you?" The man answered, "No, I'm not suggesting anything. I am telling you. It is the forgotten factor that will turn the tide of history. It will affect the future more fundamentally than the discovery of wireless, print, steam, or the internal combustion engine affected the past. It is not theory, it is fact. I have tried it." I took a look at this fellow. I saw he was no crank. Indeed, he seemed one of the sanest men I have ever met. I realized that if what he told me was true, it was the most important thing in the world. The biggest newspaper story I have ever had the luck to find. I asked him questions. Later on, after luncheon was over, this man told me his secret and how it could become available to me. I decided to make trial of the adventure. Down on the Suffolk farm where Doe and I live, I sometimes have to carry great sacks of corn on my back across the barn floor. The sacks weigh 200 weight. As you carry them forward, you get used to the weight of them. But when you set them down, suddenly you realize the intolerable load you have been carrying. Your feet seem to leave the surface of the ground, and you float on air. It was a similar sensation of easement, relief and release which I felt the morning after the luncheon party. A woman MP, who disliked me and for years had not spoken to me, stopped dead in her tracks in the lobby of the House of Commons when she saw me. "Good heavens, Peter Hard," she said. "What have you been doing? You look 10 years younger." And besides feeling different and looking different, I saw differently. The shifting, whirling kaleidoscope of life suddenly slipped into perspective. I saw in a flash the clue, which is the long run, even which in the long run would give mankind the answer to each last baffling question. I saw where I and millions like me had lost our way, and also how we could begin forthwith to build the sort of world all men and nations long for. At last, I had come to the end of my old journey and the beginning of the new. I had discovered an idea bigger than all the rest. And so ends chapter 9, which was called, what was it called? Something Hit Me. Now, just before I go, and I wish you all well, have a lovely weekend. I shall be back tomorrow night, tomorrow evening, whatever. So, this lovely, very British family here, if you cut them, they probably would bleed Darjeeling or Earl Grey tea. So, I just love that picture. I mentioned before, I think it was taken down on the farm because it looks like a haystack behind them. That is a lovely family unit. It's a unit that certain people these days would have you destroy. But I'm not going to go there, all right? I'm just saying it's a lovely family. Don't you agree? There's mum and dad and 3 children. So this guy, no, I'm misgendering that child. You can't misgender a hedgehog, by the way, because they all have pricks. Psh, that's just a little joke. Actually, it's a joke. So this guy, that's Philip, I think. He's the eldest. And I believe he became a journalist following in his father's footsteps. This little chap is Anthony. These people are all probably in their 70s or late 70s now. They're all, the children are alive, I believe. And Anthony had a video company called Country Times, something like that anyway, Countryside Times. He had a corporate video production company that made those kind of countryside videos. And the lovely lady here is Anne, and she's a double-barreled name now. It's something like Anne Grieg Howard or something. She I think, became kind of curator for her father's works, or archivist, or is it archivist, and seemed to be involved with promoting his work after he had passed and probably even beforehand. And the mummy at the top, Doe had been, by the way, a kind of champion Wimbledon tennis player, as we know, back in the 30s. She passed in 2007, so relatively recently, and she got to a good age. And Peter Howard, he died a kind of untimely age. I think he was only in his 50s or 60s. When he was away in Peru, I think he got some kind of respiratory infection or something like that, and he passed suddenly. But they're all there if you want to go Google, and you'll find pictures of them. They seem to be very moving in high society and good people, you know, very kind of teacups and the clack of cricket balls off Willow. And now am I wearing out my welcome? Okay. Well, I'll talk to you soon. Okay. Bye.